still have two primary drivers in terms of national interest, and that is oil and Israel.
Oil and Israel.
If you go to the Middle East, you find that oil has been used for a long, long time. They would grind up olives and take the oil and save it. And they would take everything else and feed it to the sheep. And the oil was special. It wasn't food. It was light. Without oil, you couldn't have light. And so they would use olive oil to run lanterns.
But they take that bottle of olive oil and they go glug, 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 and they're getting a lot of fat. Well, why is that a problem?
One of the greatest dietary excesses that we suffer from is an excess of dietary fat.
That, incidentally, is a difficult thing for a lot of people to deal with because it's an addictive response. It's an addiction. And there's evidence, in fact, that when we get accustomed to consuming higher fat intake, we actually see some changes in our brain chemistry, rather like other kinds of chemical addictions.
If you had a tube filled with marbles and you poured some oil in the top, the oil would drip through and get to the bottom, but every single marble would be completely coated with a film of oil all the way around it. Well, this happens in the bloodstream as well. When we have excess fat in the bloodstream, that fat literally coats everything else in the bloodstream. The American Medical Association has gone on record saying that blood sugar issues, although they are called blood sugar issues, they are caused from the overconsumption of fat.
If there's too much fat in your diet, there's going to be too much fat in your blood. That fat blocks the insulin receptor. It can also coat the insulin, it can coat the sugar, it can coat the whole cell. So the sugar in the blood starts building up, and this is when you get a diagnosis of diabetes. Now, the body has a way of dealing with high blood sugar. It can take the candida that's in your body. The candida are allowed by the body to go into the blood and eat up the sugar in order to bring the blood sugar down. Then you get candidiasis. Another way the body has of dealing with too much sugar in the blood is by taking that sugar, turning it into fat, and stuffing it in your existing fat cells. So that can lead to obesity, caused by too much fat in the diet.
Unsaturated fat can also end up stuck on the inside of the artery. This is not just animal fats that will do this. It's not just saturated fats, and it's not just cholesterol. Excess fat. I don't care if it's the ripest, most organic.
Olive oil, corn oil, safflower oil, flaxseed oil. These free oils, even though they may be vegetarian, they're not foods. That's just oil. You left everything else behind. And as a result, these oils are very toxic. They cause obesity, they promote cancer, many of them promote heart disease. With the obesity comes all kinds of problems like type 2 diabetes and damage to the joints. So one of the bigger mistakes people make is they switch to a healthier diet, but they don't put away the bottle of olive oil.
After consuming olive oil, blood flow decreased 31% for up to 6 hours.
Of the National Cancer Institute, olive oil, along with meat and dairy, is implicated a risk factor for breast cancer.
The more fat you have in the diet, the greater the likelihood that you will have cellular abnormalities and abnormal growths occurring within your reproductive system. Breast cancer, cervical cancer, prostate cancer, uterine cancer, all of these different conditions, a major contributory cause is excess fat in the diet triggering abnormal hormonal activity.
The sports scientists tell us some rather more telling information, I think. They explain very clearly that when your fat intake goes beyond 10%, that your ability to uptake, transport, and deliver oxygen to your cells goes down. Uptake, transport, and deliver. So if you have emphysema, you can't uptake as well if you're eating more than 10% of your calories from fat. If you have cancer, you can't transport oxygen to the necessary tissues as well as if you lower fat intake. If you're trying to be athletic, you can't deliver oxygen to your muscles as well.
There's natural fat in foods, right? And we do need some fat, around 8-9% or so of total calories.
Coconuts, they are a whole plant food. People don't typically eat whole coconuts, though, so let's break it down. Coconut oil, widely touted on the internet for its health properties. In terms of what it does to our cholesterol, it is as harmful as butter. What about coconut milk, though? The arterial reaction to coconut milk was as bad as the McDonald's.
They're not a natural substance. They are manufactured by human beings who take something and squeeze the oil out of it, and what we wind up with, in every case, every oil is 100% fat. That's the hardest thing for our bodies to break down. There is absolutely no need for us to ever be consuming even a small amount of this stuff. And unlike consuming fat in normal quantities with whole foods, what happens when we use oils, we wind up coating the small intestine and making it very difficult for the body to actually take in the vitamins and phytonutrients that it needs.
When you substitute olive oil for butter or margarine, we see some benefits. When we look at the addition of olive oil to a diet over no oil, we find that it actually increases heart attack rate and increases LDL, or the bad cholesterol. So it's not that olive oil has any beneficial effects on the heart, it's just that it's not as bad as some other fats might have been replaced with.
Now let's go by the numbers. Per tablespoon, how's it doing on calories? 2.5 times. Does it have any protein and amino acids? No. Does it have any carbohydrates and glucose for your brain and muscles? No. Does it have any fiber? No. Does it have any fat? 14 grams. Does it have any vitamins? Well, it's got a little trace of vitamin E. Does it have any minerals?
Highly processed fractionated foods that contain 4,000 calories per pound. And it's particularly bad if you take those oils and then you heat them at high temperature.
Heated fats contribute massively, of course, to heart attack and stroke. When you have heated fats going around in your blood, it tends to cause the blood cells to stick together. They will coat the lining, because they're sticky, of your intestinal tract, making it very difficult for digestion and absorption of the various nutrients, placing such an incredibly high demand upon your body to be able to wade through the challenge of sticky digestion that, of course, you end up with depleted energy.
The less oil you eat, the better your fitness and health is going to be. Oil is just like, it's just going to sludge up your system. We're not designed to be consuming oil. Don't just listen to me. Do the experiment.